You know, the thought of speaking in front of a group can be pretty intimidating. But what if we just stopped treating it like some scary performance and started treating it like an engineering problem? So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're creating a blueprint, a step-by-step plan for building a powerful, confident presentation right from the ground up.
Yeah, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the problem we're setting out to solve. I mean, we've all sat through those talks that were just boring or confusing or way too long. The thing is, these common failures, they aren't inevitable. They're just design flaws, and today we're going to engineer our way around them. All right, so here's our game plan. Think of these as the schematics for our project. We'll start with the absolute foundation, that's knowing your audience and your goal. Then we'll frame out the structure, add in some really good visual supports, and fine-tune the delivery. And finally, we'll cover how to stick the landing with a strong conclusion and Q&A.
Okay, so think about it. Every single successful engineering project starts with a crystal clear understanding of the end user and the objective. And guess what? Your presentation is exactly the same. This is the absolute foundation. Seriously, if you get this part wrong, the entire structure is at risk of just collapsing.
Now, this right here, this is a huge shift in how you think. It forces you to stop thinking about, okay, what do I want to say? And start asking, what does my audience actually need to hear? Before you write a single word or design even one slide, answering these questions defines the entire scope of your project. And this little story is the perfect example of what happens when you skip that crucial first step. There was this super smart engineer, right? He gets up and presents all this dense, complex math, but his audience included spouses who had zero technical background. You can guess what happened, right? Yep, half the room was snoozing. It's a classic case of a total mismatch between the content and the audience.
Okay, so once you've got that foundation solid, now you can start designing the framework. This is the actual structure that's going to hold your message together and deliver it in the most effective way possible. So the number one rule, the cardinal rule, is never, ever go over your time. This chart is a great way to think about it. It shows you how to match your level of detail to the time you actually have. Got 8 minutes? You hit the highlights, the key takeaways, period. Got 20? Okay, you can add some context, explain why it's relevant, but only if you've got 45 minutes or more should you even think about diving into that deep technical data. You've always got to build your talk to fit the container. And here are a few of the blueprints you can use for that structure. I mean, you wouldn't use the same plan for a bridge as you would for a skyscraper, right? Same idea here. You need the right organizational structure for your message. Are you telling a story, step by step? Or are you building an argument and saving your biggest point for last? Choose the plan that's really going to serve your purpose. All right, let's talk about the support system. Your slides, they're not just wallpaper, They're your co-presenter. They're there to simplify, to clarify, and to emphasize your key points. So let's make sure they're actually helping, not hurting. The whole goal here is for people to get it instantly. If your audience is squinting at tiny text or trying to figure out a super crowded slide, you've already lost them. So just focus on one main idea per slide, use a nice big font, and embrace that white space. Clarity is everything. And this is so, so important. Look, amazing visuals can make a good talk great, but they can't save a bad one. They support a great speaker, they don't create one. At the end of the day, it's still on you to engage the audience and bring the energy. Okay, time to talk about the delivery, the performance itself. Because all that careful planning and design, it can get totally wrecked by what communication experts call noise. Basically, anything that stops your message from getting into the minds of your audience. So our job now is to engineer that noise right out of the system. And here are 4 of the biggest offenders. A monotone voice, that'll put anyone to sleep, even if the topic is fascinating. Verbal fillers, the uhs and ums, they just get in the way of your content. Blocking the screen is an obvious physical barrier. And reading from your slides, that just tells everyone you don't really know your stuff. Each one is just static that garbles your signal. So, how do we pump up the signal and get rid of the static? Well, you maintain eye contact. That's how you build a connection. You use a conversational style to be more relatable. Make it super clear when you're moving to a new idea. Use signposts like next or so that needs us to. And don't forget, your enthusiasm is literally contagious. If you're excited, they're more likely to be excited too. All right, we've laid the foundation, we've built a structure, we've delivered the message. Now it's time to land this plane.
How you finish a presentation is often what people remember the most, so sticking the landing is absolutely critical.
So your conclusion? This is not the time to introduce anything new. Nope, it's all about focus. This is your last shot to really drive home what you want them to walk away with. Review your key points, stress that one central idea, and tell them what your final recommendations are. Basically, tell them what you told them. Simple as that.
And then, the Q&A. What happens then? This quote from Mark Twain is just perfect. Look, it's going to happen. You're going to get a question and you won't know the answer. The best thing you can do? Just be honest. People will respect your integrity way more than some fumbled or wrong guess. Just say you don't know and offer to find the answer and follow up. So, to wrap this all up, here's the big takeaway. Your next presentation, don't think of it as some scary speech you have to give. Think of it as a system you get to design. By analyzing your audience, blueprinting your structure, supporting it with clear visuals, and delivering it without all that noise, you can systematically engineer a presentation that doesn't just inform, but one that truly connects and persuades.